Hello viewers, good morning and welcome to a live telecast of the inaugural function of the 8th Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Indian Region Conference in the Assam Assembly Hall at Guwahati, Assam today. We can see the Assam Assembly entrance being ready to receive the distinguished guest arriving for the conference. We'll have in our midst the Honorable Speaker of the Lok Sabha, Mr. Om Birla, who will inaugurate the function, the conference. Along with him will be the acting chairperson of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, Mr. Jan Little Granger. In presence will be the Assam Chief Minister, Mr. Himanta Biswa Sharma, the Speaker of the Assam Legislative Assembly, Mr. Biswajit Doimari, and Leader of the Opposition in the Assam Assembly, Mr. Devobrat Shaikia. We can see the entrance of the Assam State Assembly being ready to receive the distinguished guest. We have a number of cultural groups awaiting to give a ceremonial welcome to the distinguished guest. Among them, the guests and delegates are arriving to attend the two-day conference of the Indian region of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. The distinguished guests being welcomed by the cultural troops of the state, consisting of the Bagrumba of the Bodos, the Bihu, the various ethnic groups like the Ravas, the Mishings, all ready with their traditional dress, with the dhul, pepper, and other cultural items to receive the distinguished guest. A very inclement weather has been going on in Guwahati for the last few days. It's been raining, and today also the weather is quite gloomy, and rains have been frequenting the city. But the very festive atmosphere prevails in the Assam Assembly premises, with the cultural groups of the various ethnic groups of the state in their colorful attire, awaiting the arrival of the distinguished guests coming to attend the 8th Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Indian Region Conference in the Assam Assembly Hall at Guwahati today. As many as 76 delegates from 22 states of the country will take part in the deliberations of the two-day conference. Speakers, deputy speakers, and leaders of the opposition of the various state assemblies of the country will participate in the conference. The theme of this year's conference is strengthening legislative oversight to help optimize development outcome for the aspirational sections of the society. During the conference, the delegates will deliberate on the subjects of mainstreaming youth-centric policies and harnessing youth energies for national development and the common good. Earlier to the two-day conference starting today, on 9th April, Assam had
It's
the
a
privilege
historic
of
moment
hosting
for the state of Assam
first
as
time
the
in
state is
India.
convening the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association CPA Mid-Year Exco Meet here in Guwahati for the first time. On the inaugural day of the event, the proud host CPA Assam branch and Assam Legislative Assembly made elaborate arrangement on Saturday to welcome the dignitaries of 53 countries. Beautiful dance in Assamese traditional attire, synchronized with the drum beats, mesmerized the guests and offered a rousing welcome. Was followed by the Guard of Honor offered to the Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla at the Assembly campus, who was the chief guest of the inaugural event. The first Indian leg of CPA Mid-Year Exco Meet began with the welcome address by Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sharma, followed by the speech of Acting Chairman of CPA Ian Liddell Granger and inaugural speech by Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla. And finally, it ended with the vote of thanks delivered by the Assam Legislative Assembly Speaker Biswajit Doimari. While talking to us, CPA Acting Chairman shared a few words on this historic event.
We were greatly honoured to have the CPA regional conference here. For India is fantastic. To have the CPA executive here is a privilege. And because it's been postponed because of COVID, to actually finally make it and to have the speaker from, all the speakers here is absolutely incredible. So we're very grateful for the invitation and to be here is a privilege. Well, it's a lot of different things. We need to decide what we're going to do next. As a parliamentary, we're talking about the academy, we're talking about benchmarking, we're talking about post-electoral work, we're talking about working with young people, we're talking about working with women, disabilities, and we're also talking about our academy and many other things. So we have a lot to talk about.
The proud host Assembly Speaker Biswajit Doimari expressed that such event provides the highest platform to promote a state in the international level.
A festive atmosphere prevails at the premises of the Assam State Assembly today as it prepares to host the 8th conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association India region. Delegates from 22 states of the country are assembling here for a 2-day conference to discuss various issues pertaining to parliamentary democratic practices. We can see the various cultural troops from the different ethnic groups of the state assembled at the entrance of the Assam State Assembly Hall at Dispur, Guwahati, to welcome the distinguished guests coming to attend the two-day conference of the Indian region of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. The inaugural function will be inaugurated by the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, Mr. Om Birla, in presence of the Acting Chairman of the Commonwealth Executive Committee of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, Mr. Jan Little Granger. Also in attendance will be the Assam Chief Minister, Mr. Himanta Biswa Sharma, the Speaker of the Assam Legislative Assembly, Mr. Biswajit Doimari, the Leader of the Opposition of the Assam Assembly, Mr. Debabrata Shaikya, and Mr. Haribhans, Deputy Chairman of the Rajya Sabha of the Indian Parliament. As many as 76 delegates coming from 22 states of the country will take part in the two-day deliberations to discuss the different democratic and parliamentary practices that can be ushered in to develop a healthy democratic system in the country. The Lok Sabha Speaker, Mr. Om Birla, who arrived on 9th April to attend the mid-year Executive Committee meeting of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, yesterday visited the famous Kaziranga National Park, which is famous for the one-horned rhino. So we can see the cultural troops of various ethnic groups of the state preparing to receive the distinguished guest arriving to attend the two-day session of the India Region Conference of the 8th Commonwealth Parliamentary Association in Guwahati today. Speaker Biswajit Doimari ready to receive the distinguished guest arriving to attend the conference. Delegates coming from as many as 22 different states of the country are coming to take part in the deliberations. They are being welcomed with the traditional gamusha and army of the different ethnic groups of the state. We can see a number of delegates coming from the southern part of India arriving to attend the two-day conference, and they are being welcomed by the cultural troops of the state. Cultural troops from the various ethnic groups like the Bodos, the Mishings, the Ravas, the Kobi, and other ethnic groups are waiting to welcome the distinguished guests coming to attend the two-day conference of the Indian region of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. You can see officials inside the main hall of the Assam Assembly premises. Very inclement weather has been prevailing in Assam and the northeastern states for the last 1 week. There have been a lot of rainfall, And though the sun peeps in now and then, but overall it has been the dark skies, cloudy skies, with rains coming in. The conference is being held at a time when the state is preparing to celebrate the Bohag Bihu, the national festival of Assam. The delegates will have the opportunity of enjoying the cultural functions being held on the occasion of the Bohag Bihu festival. They'll also be taken around the tea gardens and the textile town of Swalkusi to have an idea of the rich cultural heritage of the state. You can see Speaker of the Lok Sabha, Mr. Om Birla, arriving. Speaker of the Assam Assembly, Mr. Dispur receiving him. Mr. Om Birla making his way to the hall, the Assam Assembly, where the two-day conference of the Indian region of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association is being held. Cultural troops giving him a ceremonial welcome to the Lok Sabha Speaker, Mr. Om Birla, who will inaugurate the 8th Indian Region Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Indian Region Conference in the Assam Assembly Hall shortly. Lok Sabha Speaker, Mr. Om Birla, has already arrived and has been ceremonially received by Assam Assembly Speaker, Mr. Dispur and the various cultural troops are representing the different ethnic groups of the state. Assam Assembly, which is hosting the 8th Regional Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association of the Indian Region, was established way back in 1937. It has a glorious history. We can see Mr. Om Birla making his way to the hall. More delegates are arriving for the conference. They are all being welcomed at entrance. The holding of the 8th Conference of the Indian Region of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association will further deepen the roots of democracy in the northeastern region of the country. We had the proud honor recently when the state of Nagaland sent its first woman Rajya Sabha member, Mrs. Phangnon Konyak. It's a very healthy development and reflects the deep roots that democracy is taking in various states of the northeastern region. The Commonwealth Parliamentary Association represents more than 180 parliaments and legislatures in 53 Commonwealth countries. It is divided into 9 geographical regions of the Commonwealth. They are Africa, Asia, Australia, the British Islands and Mediterranean, Canada, Caribbean, America and Atlantic, India, Pacific, and Southeast Asia. The Indian region of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association covers the entire country of India, consisting of the various states, and they send in the delegates comprising of their speakers, deputy speakers, leaders of their opposition to attend this conference. The Assam Assembly, which is hosting the conference this year, is playing host to as many as 76 delegates coming from as many as 22 states of the country. The delegates will have the opportunity of visiting the Bobitara Wildlife Sanctuary, which has a very substantial population of one-horned rhinos. They can also visit the Swalkusi textile town where the famous Andi and Muga of Assam are weaved by the women folk. They'll also be taken to the tea gardens in Paneri, where they can also have a taste of the rich cultural heritage of the Bodo tribes living in those areas. Speaker Biswajit Doimari receiving the distinguished guests and delegates coming to attend the 2-day 8th conference of the Indian region of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. The delegates are slowly coming in. Speaker of the Lok Sabha, Mr. Om Birla, has already arrived and was ceremonially received by the Speaker of the Assam Assembly, Mr. Biswajit Doimari. The theme, as we have already said, of this year's conference is strengthening legislative oversight to help optimize development outcome for the aspirational sections of the society. During the conference, the delegates will deliberate on the subjects of mainstreaming youth-centric policies and harnessing youth energies for national development and the common good. India, as you know, has one of the largest proportion of population in the younger age groups in the world. 35.3% of the population of the country has been in the age group of 0 to 14 years as per the 2001 census. 41% of the population account for less than 18 years of age. The COVID pandemic, which affected the world during the last 2 years, also left its mark on the economy of a big and populous country like India. The lockdown imposed in the country left lakhs of young men unemployed, while large numbers had to lose their jobs and go back to their towns and villages. In this context, the deliberations of the delegates coming from various states, centering on youth policies for their economic development of the country, will be very vital for the coming days. India's 1.3 billion people make it. We can see the member of the Rajya Sabha, Mr. Bhubaneswar Kalita, coming in to attend the conference. Officials busy in the Assembly Hall, where the two-day conference of the India Region Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association will be held. Mr. Biswajit Doimari, Speaker of the Assam Assembly, and his officials. Viewers can also have an opportunity to view this live telecast in the YouTube channel where this has been uploaded. Delegates from various states slowly coming in within the two-day conference of the 8th Common Indian Region of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. Delegates attired in their traditional dresses of their respective states coming in. We have as many as 76 delegates coming from 22 states attending the two-day conference here. The valedictory session of the conference will be held tomorrow after the end of the two-day deliberations, and it will be graced by the presence of the Governor of Assam, Professor Jagdish Mukhi. You can see Ian Little Granger, the acting chairperson of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Executive Committee, coming in. Delegates slowly making their way to the main hall of the Assam's Legislative Assembly. More delegates arriving to attend the conference, all being welcomed by Speaker Biswajit Doimari. Members coming from different states, lady members wearing the traditional dresses of their respective states, being received by the cultural troops. A ceremonial welcome for the delegates attending the two-day conference of the Indian region of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. You can see the Bihu troupe, the Bagrumba dance of the Boros, the Missings, the Ravas, receiving the delegates arriving to attend the conference. In a short while from now, Lok Sabha of the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, Mr. Om Birla, will inaugurate the 8th Regional Conference, Indian Region Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, in presence of the acting chairperson of the Executive Committee of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, Ian Little Granger, Assam Chief Minister, Mr. Himanta Biswa Sharma, Leader of the Opposition in the Assam Assembly, Mr. Debabrata Saikia, Mr. Harivansh, Deputy Chairman of the Rajya Sabha, and Speaker of the Assam Legislative Assembly, Mr. Biswajit Doimari. Delegates making their way to the hall of the Assam Assembly where the conference will take off in a short while from now. The entrance of the Assam Legislative Assembly wearing a festive look with various cultural troops of the ethnic groups of the state waiting to receive the delegates attending the two-day conference of the India region of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. Delegates arriving to a ceremonial welcome at the entrance of the Assam Legislative Assembly gate. Cultural troops, the Bihu, the Bagrumba, the Bihus of the Misings, the Rabha and others, giving them a ceremonial welcome. A gloomy weather for the last few days. However, with the advent of spring, Assam is also celebrating the Bohag Bihu, the spring festival of the people of Assam. The cultural troops giving a ceremonial welcome to the delegates of the 8th Commonwealth Parliamentary Association India Region Conference being held in Guwahati with a two-day program from today. You can see the Deputy Speaker of the Assam Assembly, Numal Momin, receiving a member of the Assam Assembly. Delegates slowly making their way to the hall of the Assam Legislative Assembly where the two-day conference will take place. In a short while from now, Speaker of the Lok Sabha, Mr. Om Birla, will inaugurate the two-day conference of the Indian region of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. A member of the Assam Assembly representing the AIUDF party coming in. Officials of the Assam Legislative Assembly in their different ethnic traditional dresses, receiving the delegates coming to attend the two-day conference of the Indian region of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. The festive atmosphere prevails in the Assam Assembly premises as they get ready to receive the delegates coming to attend the two-day Indian Region Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. You can see Senior Minister Mr. Jugen Mohan of the Assam government arriving to attend the conference. The theme of this year's this conference has been a youth-centric. Earlier, on 9th April, the two-day mid-year conference of the Executive Committee of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association had started in the Guwahati. We can see delegates coming from various countries, the states arriving. And these are shots from the earlier the Executive Committee meeting of the CPA.
The first Indian leg of CPA mid-year Exco meet began with the welcome address by Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma, followed by the speech of Acting Chairman of CPA Ian Liddell-Granger and inaugural speech by Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla. And finally, it ended with the vote of thanks delivered by the Assam Legislative Assembly Speaker Biswajit Doimari. While talking to us, CPA Acting Chairman shared a few words on this historic event.
Well, we're greatly honoured to have the CPA regional conference here. For India is fantastic. To have the CPA executive here is a privilege. And because it's been postponed because of COVID, to actually finally make it and to have the speaker from, all the speakers here is absolutely incredible. So we're very grateful for the invitation and to be here is a privilege. Well, it's a lot of different things. We need to decide what we're going to do next. As a parliamentary, we're talking about the academy, we're talking about benchmarking, we're talking about post-electoral work, we're talking about working with young people, we're talking about working with women, disabilities, and we're also talking about our academy and many other things. So we have a lot to talk about.
The proud host Assembly Speaker Biswajit Doimari expressed that such event provides the highest platform to promote a state in the international level.
In a short while from now, the Speaker Om Birla of the Lok Sabha will inaugurate the 8th Regional India Region Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association in presence of the Acting Chairman of the Executive Committee of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, Mr. Jan Little Granger, the Chief Minister of Assam, Mr. Himanta Biswa Sharma, the Speaker of the Assam Legislative Assembly, Mr. Biswajit Deumaree, the Leader of the Opposition in the Assam Assembly, Mr. Debabrata Saikia, and Mr. Harivansh, Deputy Chairman of the Rajya Sabha. Also present will be about 76 delegates coming from 22 different states of the country. The Assam Legislative Assembly, which is hosting the 8th India Region Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, was established in Shillong, the erstwhile capital of the composite state of Assam, on April 7, 1937. Situated in the northeastern part of India, Assam has a glorious history of her own. Popularly known as the Ethnological Museum of India, Assam is described as a mini India having a rich cultural heritage with diverse race, religion, and culture. It presently has a strength of 126 members representing different parts of the country, of the state, sorry. The Indian Region Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association is today being held at a time when the Assam and our people are preparing to celebrate the Bohag Bihu, the biggest national spring festival of the state, and Assamese New Year. Delegates coming to attend the conference will have an opportunity to visit some of the beautiful parks, national wildlife sanctuaries, textile towns, and tea gardens situated near Guwahati. Mr. Om Birla, Speaker of the Lok Sabha, visited the Kaziranga National Park yesterday, where one could see the famous one-horn rhinoceros. The hall of the Assam Legislative Assembly, where the two-day conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association of the Indian region will be held in a short while from now. Delegates taking their seats in the hall and waiting for the arrival of the distinguished guests and other delegates coming from various states of the country. The theme of this year's conference is strengthening legislative oversight to help optimize development outcome for the aspirational sections of the society. During the conference, the delegates will deliberate on the subjects of mainstreaming youth-centric policies and harnessing youth energies for national development and the common good. Starting with the mid-year executive meeting of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, which started on 9th April with a two-day program. The Assam Assembly and Assam and the Northeastern region has been the proud host of a big democratic extravaganza. For the first time, Assam Legislative Assembly had the proud privilege of hosting for the first time in India the mid-year executive committee meeting of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. And this has been followed by the 8th India Region Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, starting today. In a short while from now, Speaker of the Lok Sabha, Mr. Om Birla, will inaugurate the two-day conference. Mr. Jan Little Granger, the acting chairman of the Executive Committee of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, will be present on the occasion, as well as 76 delegates coming from 22 different states of the country will be present to deliberate on healthy parliamentary practices, different issues pertaining to the smooth running of the state assemblies, the reforms that should be brought in to keeping with the times, removal of some of the archaic rules and procedures which are not in sync with the prevailing times. A lot of issues come in every day, and presiding officers of the various assemblies of the country face a lot of problems pertaining to the day-to-day parliamentary practices in running of the state assembly sessions. Though a number of reforms have been ushered in the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha of the Indian Parliament, most of these reforms are yet to percolate to the various state assemblies of the country. And this is where delegates coming from various states, in presence of the Lok Sabha Speaker and various other senior dignitaries of the Indian Parliament, will deliberate on how to tackle the day-to-day issues pertaining to the running of a healthy parliamentary democratic system, what good practices could be exchanged, could be adopted to run smoothly the assembly, the sessions, problems of members representing a multi-party democratic system prevailing in India. In the two-day mid-year executive committee meeting of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, we can see here a portrait of the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, adorning the walls of the hall of the Assam State Assembly, where the two-day 8th India Region Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association will take place from a short while from now. Mahatma Gandhi himself was a great believer in the power of democracy and the ethos of a healthy democratic and parliamentary system of governance. Since its independence in 1947, India had adopted the British parliamentary system of governance, though with certain changes to keeping in sync with the huge size of the country like India, with a diverse population cutting across different languages, religion, caste, creed. The executive committee meeting of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, during their deliberations in the last 2 days, had dwelt on taking up in a healthy and democratic way of tackling the emerging global issues in a democratic way. Mr. Om Birla, addressing the Executive Committee meeting of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, had said that India was a strong votary of democracy. Indian democracy is not only ancient, but strong, mature, and vibrant. Democracy is in our thoughts and actions and has become a way of life. During the 75 years of our independence, our democracy has consistently gone from strength to strength, he had said in his speech. Mr. Jan Liddell Granger, the acting chairman of the Commonwealth Parliament Executive Committee of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, had spoken on the path-breaking initiatives taken up by the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association and had hoped that the deliberations of the mid-year meeting would go a long way in shaping the strategies for global issues. Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sharma, addressing the Executive Committee inaugural function of the Executive Committee meeting of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, had said that it was a historic day for Assam to host for the first time in India, the Executive Committee meeting of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. He said the Assam Assembly was one of the oldest in India, second only to Uttar Pradesh. He recalled the contributions of Bharat Ratna Lokopriya Gopinath Bordoloi. The Chief Minister had said that in the last 8 decades, the Assam Assembly has witnessed many historic debates with several towering personalities adorning this temple of democracy. The Hall of the Assam Legislative Assembly, where the 2-day 8th India Region Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association will be held in a short while from now. Officials and delegates and waiting for the arrival of the distinguished guests and the beginning of the inaugural function. Members of the Assam Legislative Assembly have already taken their seats in the Assembly Hall, awaiting the arrival of the outstation delegates coming from as many as 22 different states of the country. On their arrival, they have been given a ceremonial welcome by the various cultural troops representing the different ethnic groups of the state. We can see some of the members of the Assam Legislative Assembly seated in the hall of the Assam Legislative Assembly, waiting for the arrival of the outstation delegates and the distinguished guest. Mr. Om Birla, Speaker of the Lok Sabha, will inaugurate the 2-day session of the 8th India Region Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association in a short while from now. The inaugural function will be also addressed by the Chief Minister of Assam, Mr. Himanta Biswa Sharma, the acting chairman of the Executive Committee of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, Mr. Jan Little Granger, the leader of the opposition of the Assam Legislative Assembly, Mr. Debobrata Shaikia, Mr. Harivansh, Deputy Chairman of the Rajya Sabha, and the Speaker of the Assam Legislative Assembly, Mr. Biswajit Doimari. The Assembly Hall all ready for the arrival of the delegates and the distinguished guests coming for the two-day conference. Viewers, as you are aware, Commonwealth countries are those countries which were at one time a part of the British Empire. The Executive Committee of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association usually meets twice a year. The meet focuses on a number of topics like change of best parliamentary practices, study of different parliamentary systems across the Commonwealth, and on making parliamentary democracy more vibrant in the Commonwealth countries. The representatives from India in the Executive Committee of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association are Prem Chand Agarwal, who is the Speaker of the Uttarakhand Legislative Assembly, Mr. Anurag Sharma, who is a Member of Parliament, and Mr. Biswajit Doimari is the Speaker of the Assam Legislative Assembly. The Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, commonly referred to as the CPA, represents more than 180 parliaments and legislatures in 53 Commonwealth countries. It is divided up between 9 geographical regions of the Commonwealth. They are Africa, Asia, Australia, British Islands and Mediterranean, Canada, Caribbean, America and Atlantic, India, Pacific and Southeast Asia. We are presently today having the 8th India Region Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. The India region basically comprises the various states of India. Coming to attend the 8th India Region Conference of the CPA being held in Assam Legislative Assembly Hall at Guwahati with a 2-day program from today. About 76 delegates will be coming from 22 states of the country. We can see the delegates representing the members of the Assam Legislative Assembly already seated in the Assam Legislative Assembly Hall. Members from various political parties of the Assam Legislative Assembly have already come in to the Assam Assembly Hall and have taken their seats. The Assembly officials also are ready, and in a short while from now we will see the inaugural function of the 8th India Region Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, which will be inaugurated by Mr. Om Birla, Speaker of the Lok Sabha. The Speaker, Mr. Om Birla, has already arrived at the Assembly premises. He was ceremonially received by the Speaker of the Assam Assembly, Mr. Biswajit Doimari, and was given a colorful welcome by the cultural troops of the various ethnic groups who have assembled at the entrance of the Assam Legislative Assembly. Earlier, the mid-year executive committee meeting of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association was held from April 9th with a two-day program.
The Commonwealth Parliamentary Association CPA Mid-Year Exco meet here in Guwahati for the first time. On the inaugural day of the event, the proud host CPA Assam branch and Assam Legislative Assembly made elaborate arrangement on Saturday to welcome the dignitaries of 53 countries. Beautiful dance in Assamese traditional attire, synchronized with the drum beats, mesmerized the guests and offered a rousing welcome. Was followed by the Guard of Honor offered to the Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla at the Assembly campus, who was the chief guest of the inaugural event. The first Indian leg of CPA Mid-Year Exco meet began with the welcome address by Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma, followed by the speech of Acting Chairman of CPA Ian Liddell-Granger and inaugural speech by Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla. And finally, it ended with the vote of thanks delivered by the Assam Legislative Assembly Speaker Biswajit Doimari. While talking to us, CPA Acting Chairman shared a few words on this historic event.
We were greatly honoured to have the CPA regional conference here. For India is fantastic. To have the CPA executive here is a privilege. And because it's been postponed because of COVID, to actually finally make it and to have the speaker from, all the speakers here is absolutely incredible. So we're very grateful for the invitation, and to be here is a privilege. Well, it's a lot of different things. We need to decide what we're going to do next. As a parliamentary, we're talking about the academy, we're talking about benchmarking, we're talking about post-electoral work, we're talking about working with young people, we're talking about working with women, disabilities, and we're also talking about our academy and many other things. So we have a lot to talk about.
The proud host Assembly Speaker Biswajit Doimari expressed that such event provides the highest platform to promote a state in the international level.
না এটা অসমটো আমি ভাগ্যশালী হয় আমি আমাৰ ভাগ্য বুলি ক'ব লাগিব যে আজি প্ৰথম ভাৰতত কমনৱেলথ পাৰ্লিয়ামেণ্টাৰী এছ'চিয়েশ্যনৰ মানে এটা এক্সকো এক্সিকিউটিভ মিটিং মানে হৈ আছে দেশখনতে প্ৰথমবাৰ আৰু সেই দেশখনত আমি অসমে আজি সেইটো হোষ্ট কৰিছো যে আমি যদি বিশ্বৰ বিভিন্ন দেশৰ লগত যদি সম্পৰ্ক মানে ভালদৰে ৰাখিব পাৰো সবৰ লগত চিনা পৰিচয় হ'ব পাৰে অসম বিষয়ে যদি আমি বিশ্বত যেটো মানে প্ৰচাৰ কৰিব লাগে হেয়া যদি হিতৰ মাধ্যমত অসমৰ কলা সংস্কৃতি ভাষা ইয়াৰ ইতিহাস যদি আমি মানে কি কয় জনাব পাৰো হেতই বহুত ডাঙৰ কথা গটিকে এই ইভেন্টছ কোনৰ মানে সেই কাৰণে আমি ইয়াত মানে পাতিব পাৰাটোৱে সবতকৈ ডাঙৰ আমাৰ
the Hall of the Assam Legislative Assembly, where the 8th India Region Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association will be held from a short while from now. The hall all ready to receive the delegates coming from as many as 22 states of the country. The function, inaugural function, will be inaugurated from a short while from now by the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, Mr. Om Birla. The function will be addressed by the Chief Minister of Assam, Mr. Himanta Biswa Sharma, the acting chairman of the Executive Committee of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, Mr. Jan Little Granger, the leader of the opposition of the Assam Assembly, Mr. Debobrata Shaikia, and Speaker of the Assam Assembly, Mr. Biswajit Doimari. Delegates have been slowly arriving for the conference, and they are being received by the Speaker of the Assam Assembly, Mr. Biswajit Doimari.
From a distance, Rangsapara looks like any other village of Assam. Miles and miles of lush green paddy fields, little rivers navigating themselves, and an idyllic village life. On actual visit to this village in Guwahati district, which is almost 160 kilometers from Guwahati, through one of the fantastic stretches of tropical dense forest on the national highway, a little diversion after a few kilometers after Agia, one steps into this remarkable village and something strikes the view immediately. Women folk in large numbers are on the road. It is impossible to miss this view. They are in action. They are in unison. They are with a purpose. Picking up the gathering dust that has accumulated, the women work in tandem and the results are all too evident. Neatly maintained roads, garbage-free localities, impeccable surroundings, and a beautiful omnipresent church to look on. Welcome to Rangsapara, Assam's cleanest village. Declared the cleanest village in the state by the Public Health Engineering Department of Assam, Rangsapara is a 100-year-old scenic village which shot to limelight in early 2017 when it got the cleanest village tag and was awarded ₹5 lakh. A village of 92 households with a total population of 575 and which spreads over an area of 127 hectares is engaged in this mission. On the day of our visit, there is a flutter in the village life. The Deputy Commissioner of the district is visiting to reaffirm the administration's continued support to the villagers' stride for sustaining a clean environment. A heavy downpour doesn't dilute the enthusiasm of the men and women who gathered on the occasion, as little saplings get into tender hands to possibly nurture into full-blown trees in the near future.
I feel that it is because of the people's concept which is very deeply ingrained of cleanliness, which is why the village has come up in such a beautiful manner.
Beginning from 1990, this village, predominantly inhabited by Garo tribes of people, is conscious of their role in keeping their villages clean. Buoyed by the success of its stride towards ODF, the movement began to gather steam in the late 90s and early 2000.
हम लोग गांव को साफ रखने के लिए इसे होता है जैसा साफा होगा ऐसा तो हम लोग को बीमारी भी नहीं होता है इसलिए हम साफा करने के लिए बहुत जरूरी है.
A neatly gravelled path leads us to the village heartland. Every house is mandated to keep a garden. Well developed and neatly maintained, one can understand the involvement of the people at every level of village existence. There are green fields all around Rangsapara. Paddy is the main crop grown here. A significant portion of the village area has come under rubber plantations, the output of which is taken to the nearest market at Agia, bringing handsome prices and contributing to the economic fortunes of the villagers. From the past to the present, the journey of Rangsapara is the journey of the people's movement for cleanliness. And there is no stopping this movement. It is hoped that this initiative, based on community involvement, takes further roots and contributes to a cleaner and greener India.
You can see the hall of the Assam Legislative Assembly, where the 8th India Region Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association will begin shortly with a 2-day program. As many as 76 delegates coming from 22 different states of the country will attend the conference. They will deliberate on the best parliamentary practices that could be adopted in the day-to-day sessions of the Assembly, how reforms could be ushered in, what methods and practices could be adopted to tackle, integrate issues that come in the smooth running of the various assemblies in the country. The theme of this year's conference is strengthening legislative oversight to help optimize development outcome for the aspirational sections of the society. During the conference, the delegates will deliberate on the subjects of mainstreaming youth-centric policies and harnessing youth energies for national development and the common good. As you are aware, India has one of the largest proportions of population in the younger age groups in the world. 35.3% of the population of the country has been in the age group of 0 to 14 years as per the 2001 census. 41% of the population account for less than 18 years of age. In this context, the theme of the 2-day conference of the India region of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association is very relevant. With the COVID pandemic affecting the world during the last 2 years, leaving its mark also on the economy of a big and populous country like India, the lives of lakhs of young people were affected by the COVID pandemic, and a roadmap for mainstreaming strategic policies for the upliftment of the youth in the coming days will give a big boost to the development and the economic growth of the country in the coming days. As the legislatures of the country are the platforms where the policymakers of the country deliberate to chart out the roadmap ahead for the development of the respective states. It is very important that such forums where they can meet and exchange their views help in the growth of a vibrant democracy and development of a country like India. You can see delegates slowly coming in to take their seats in the Assam Assembly Hall. Earlier, the two-day meeting of the mid-year mid-year executive committee meeting of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association was held in Guwahati from April 9 for the first time in India. I beg your pardon. There's a view of the delegates taking a photograph today with distinguished guests in the presence of the Lok Sabha Speaker, Mr. Om Birla, Acting Chairman of the Executive Committee of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, Mr. Yan Little Granger, the Assam Chief Minister, Mr. Himanta Biswa Sharma, Speaker of the Assam Assembly, Mr. Biswajit Doimari. You can see all the delegates taking their position for a group photo of the delegates coming to attend the 8th India Region Conference. Mr. Om Birla, Speaker of the Lok Sabha, lighting the ceremonial lamp to inaugurate the two-day session of the 8th India Region Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. Delegates and the distinguished guests, we can again see the Assam Assembly Hall slowly filling up, awaiting the arrival of the distinguished guests for the inaugural function of the 8th India Region Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. Delegates coming from various states of the country taking their seats in the Assembly Hall premises. A number of delegates from foreign countries can also be seen attending the inaugural function of the India Region Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. As many as 76 delegates coming from various states of the country, including speakers, deputy speakers, leaders of the opposition, are attending the two-day session of the 8th India Region Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. Representative delegates coming from various states of the country, including the 7 northeastern states. Some of the delegates who had come to attend the mid-year executive committee meeting of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association are also seen attending the India Region Conference, inaugural function of the Indian Region Conference. The inaugural conference will be addressed by the acting chairman of the executive committee of the CPA, Mr. Yan Little Granger. You can see a number of members from Assam in the Rajya Sabha like Bhubaneswar Kalita and Gaurav Gogoi, Lok Sabha member from Assam. There's Queen Uja, member of parliament from Assam. Gaurav Gogoi from the Lok Sabha, coming to attend the inaugural function of the 8 India Region Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. The Assembly Hall of the Assam Legislative Assembly slowly filling up, and in a short while from now, the inaugural function will take off. Mr. Om Birla, the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, Jan Granger, Acting Chairman of the Commonwealth Executive Committee of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, have already arrived. The inaugural function is also going to be addressed by the Assam Chief Minister, Mr. Hitesh Saikia, I beg your pardon, Himanta Biswa Sharma, Speaker of the Assam Legislative Assembly, Mr. Biswajit Doimari, and Mr. Harivansh, Deputy Chairman of the Rajya Sabha. Delegates coming from various parts and states of the country slowly coming in and taking their respective seats in the hall of the Assam Legislative Assembly, where the 2-day conference of the 8 India Region Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association is being held. We can see Member of Parliament Bhubaneswar Kalita, members cutting across and reflecting the great diversity of India, being reflected in the presence of the delegates coming from as many as 22 states of the country. There will be about 76 delegates attending the 2-day conference. Earlier, the delegates coming to attend the 2-day conference had a group photo shoot with the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. You can see Bhubaneswar Kalita, Rajya Sabha member from Assam. On the back side, we can see senior Congress leader, Mr. Raqibul Hussain. Delegates coming to attend the 2-day conference, slowly moving into the hall of the Assam Legislative Assembly, where the inaugural function of the 8 India Region Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association will take place shortly. Here's Mr. Gaurav Gogoi, the young member of parliament of the Lok Sabha from Assam, coming to attend the inaugural function of the 2-day conference of the Indian region of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. Delegates awaiting the arrival of the distinguished guest for the inaugural function of the 2-day conference. Foreign delegate, along with members of the Assam State Assembly. The Assam State Assembly was established on April 7, 1937 in Shillong, the erstwhile capital of the Assam. It has a glorious history of bringing in the democratic traditions of parliamentary democracy in this part of the country. Delegates coming in from various parts of the country. Situated in the northeastern part of India, Assam has a glorious history of our own. It's popularly known as the Ethnological Museum of India. Assam is described as a mini India having a rich cultural heritage with diverse race, religion and culture. At present, the Assam Assembly has a strength of 126 members representing different parts of the state. The 8th India Region Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association is today being held at a time when Assam and our people are preparing to celebrate the Bohag Bihu, the biggest national spring festival of the state, and Assam is New Year. You can see the young member of parliament, Gaurav Gogoi, from the Lok Sabha, along with senior Congress leader Rakibul Hussain, member of parliament Mrs. Queen Oza, Mr. Tapan Gogoi, the new member of the Lok Sabha from Assam, coming to attend the inaugural function of the two-day conference. The assembly hall slowly filling up, awaiting the arrival of the distinguished guests. Yeah, here we can see Speaker of the Assam Assembly, Biswajit Doimari, welcoming Mr. Om Birla, Speaker of the Lok Sabha, Mr. Harivansh, Deputy Chairman of the Rajya Sabha, Mr. Jan Grenga, Acting Chairman of the CPA, Assam Chief Minister, Mr. Himanta Biswa Sharma, taking their seats on the dais for the inaugural function of the 8th India Region Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. Mr. Biswajit Doimari will be delivering the welcome address shortly.
Honorable Ian Little Granger, Chairperson, Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Executive Committee. Honorable Chief Minister of Assam, Dr. Himanta Biswa Sharma. Honorable Deputy Chairman, Rajya Sabha, Shri Harivansh. Honorable Speaker, Assam Legislative Assembly, Shri Biswajit Doimari. Honorable Shri Debabrata Hoikia, Leader of Opposition, Assam Legislative Assembly. Excellencies, distinguished members of Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Executive Committee, distinguished presiding officers and other delegates of Commonwealth Parliamentary Association India Region, honorable ministers, members of Parliament, members of Assam Legislative Assembly, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Assam Legislative Assembly and Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, Assam State Branch and Commonwealth Parliamentary Association India Region, I extend a warm welcome to you all to the opening ceremony of the 8th India Region Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Conference. We feel deeply honored to welcome you all to this land of Assam, a paradise situated in the northeastern part of India, a land truly blessed with the bounties of nature, rich history, and great ethnic diversity. Be blessed by the divine goddess Kamakhya. For Assam Legislative Assembly, which is also the Assam State branch of India region, this conference is another shining milestone. Assam Legislative Assembly, like the mid-year executive committee meeting of Commonwealth Parliamentary Association International held on 9th and 10th of April 2022, is organizing the regional conference for the first time. I would now request Sri Biswajit Doimari, Honorable Speaker, Assam Legislative Assembly and President, Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, Assam State Branch, to kindly deliver his welcome speech.
Good morning, everybody. Honorable Speaker Lok Sabha, Sri Om Birla ji, Deputy Chairman Rajya Sabha, Sri Harivansh ji, Honorable Chairperson CPA Executive Committee, Sri Ladle Granger ji, Honorable Chief Minister of Assam, Dr. Himanta Biswa Sarma ji, Honorable Leader of Opposition, Assam, Sri Debabrata Saikia जी, और हमारे भारत के विभिन्न राज्य से यहाँ उपस्थित हुए हमारी सारे सम्मानीय स्पीकरगण, डिप्टी स्पीकरगण, चेयरमैन और डिप्टी चेयरमैनगण, और यहाँ उपस्थित हुए हमारी मंत्रिमंडल के मंत्री सदस्यगण, भारत की पार्लियामेंट की सम्मानीय लोकसभा और राज्यसभा के सदस्यगण, हमारी सीपीए की यहाँ उपस्थित सेक्रेटरी जनरल स्टीफन ट्विग जी और अन्य प्रतिनिधिगण, लोकसभा की सेक्रेटरी जनरल और राज्यसभा की सेक्रेटरी जनरल और हमारे विधायकगण और अन्य हमारे ऑफिसर्स, आज की इस पवित्र दिन, पवित्र मुहूर्त और इस पवित्र विधानसभा की मंच पे आप सभी को मैं स्वागत करता हूं, असम की तरफ से, असम की विधानसभा की तरफ से। आप सभी को पता है असम वीर भूमि है। ये भारत सभ्यता और भारत संस्कृति के साथ शुरुआत से ही ये संपर्क है, रिलेटेड है। आप सभी जानते हैं यहाँ से लासित बोरफुकन वीर, वो बहुत बड़ा वीर था, उनके नेतृत्व में मुगल को भी हराया था। वो इसी भूमि है जहां पर लासित जी का जन्म हुआ था। तो आप सभी जानते हैं महाभारत के समय, रामायण के समय भी जो भारतीय सभ्यता और संस्कृति के बारे में विस्तृत किया गया है, ये असम भूमि मुख्य भूमि है। तो जहां पर महाभारत के समय में हरिहर का युद्ध हुआ था, श्री कृष्ण जी और शिव जी के बीच में, ये हमारे असम के तेजपुर में थे, जहां स्वयं ब्रह्मा भी उतरा था असम के तेजपुर में। तो ये भूमि है। कामाख्या देवी का मंदिर आप लोग सभी जानते हैं, उसको जिन्होंने बनाया नरकासुर जी थे, और नरकासुर बहुत पराक्रमी वीर थे। उनके बेटा भगदत्त महाभारत की कुरुक्षेत्र के युद्धों में भी यहां से जाके भाग लिया था। और आप सभी को ज्ञात है कि जिसको हमारा स्पीकर साहब है, उनके घटश्याम मंदिर, जिस घटश्याम को हम बर्बरिक को मतलब माना जाता है, ये बर्बरिक हमारे असम के पता है, क्योंकि यहाँ की एक वीर था मुरा जिनको वध करके श्री कृष्ण जी ने मुरलीधर नाम मिला था, तो मुरा के बेटी घटोत्कच के साथ शादी हुआ था और उनका बेटा ये बारबारिक है जो कि घटोत्कच के नाम में अभी प्रसिद्ध है, जो जयपुर में उनके नाम पे एक मंदिर है। तो ये भूमि है जहां से उनका उत्पन्न हुआ। तो इसी तरह रामायण के समय में परशुराम जी एक महापराक्रमी, महावीर, महाज्ञानी थे। तो उनका भी एक ऐतिहासिक घटना है कि वो जो अपने पिता के वचन मानकर अपनी मातृ का वध किया था, तो उनका कुल्हाड़ हाथ पे लगा हुआ था। तो सारे संतों ने कहा था कि आपका महापाप हो गया है, लेकिन उन्होंने कहा था कि मैं तो पितृ का आदेश माना हूं, इसमें महापाप की क्या बात है। तो बोला नहीं, पितृ का आदेश तो आपने माना, लेकिन जन्मदात्री मातृ को वध करना ये तो कभी सही नहीं हो सकता कि इसके कारण आपका महापाप हो गया। इसके लिए एक कुल्हाड़ी आपसे छुड़ा नहीं जा रहा है। इसलिए आप ब्रह्मपुत्र पे नहाओ धो, तो पवित्र नदी है ब्रह्मपुत्र, उसमें आपके हाथ का कुल्हाड़ शायद निकाल सकता है। वो जाके वहां पर जब नहाया तो उनके हाथ से सचमुच कुल्हाड़ छूट गया। तो ये हमारी अरुणाचल में होता है आजकल। हमारे सोना साहब है स्पीकर, उनके वहां पर परशुराम खंड है, तो रामायण के साथ भी जुड़े है। रामायण के जो क्या है आपका सप्तऋषि है, उनमें से वशिष्ठ मुनि यही गुवाहाटी में ठहरते थे। उनके नाम पे आश्रम है जो राम को भी शिक्षा दिया माना जाता है। तो इसी तरह एक है आत्री मुनि जो कि भूटान के सामने उनका भी एक आश्रम है, जो आत्री मुनि भी विश्वामित्र उन लोगों के साथ एक बहुत बड़ा संत थे। तो ये इस भूमि से थे। तो ये ऐसे एक भूमि है। आज के दिन में एक सिंग वाला राइनो के नाम में भी असम जानते हैं कि एक सिंग वाला राइनो भारतवर्ष में सिर्फ असम में मिलता है। असम में जो वंश है इसको मिलना मुश्किल है सारे पृथ्वी में। तो ये भूमि है असम। तो इस असम साय के बहुत नामी है। असम में सार उत्पादन होता है, जो कि भारत के टोटल उत्पादन से 50% से भी ज्यादा असम में साई उत्पादन होता है। जो कि भारतीय समाज में सुबह साई नहीं पीने से हमारा काम शुरू नहीं होता, ये असम से शुरू होता है। तो ये असम है। तो इस असम का संस्कृति, अभी बिहू का उत्सव आ रहा है। यह बिहू सारी यहाँ के जो कम्युनिटी है, जिसको मिनी इंडिया बोला जाता है, कि भारतवर्ष में जितने बहुत सारे छोटे बड़े जाति हैं, भाषाई है, कला संस्कृति है, तो ये असम तथा पहले का अखंड जो असम है नॉर्थ ईस्ट, तो इससे में भारत की जैसे एक ही छोटे जगह में बहुत सारे जातीय भाषाएं, कला संस्कृति यहाँ पर है, भरपूर है। इसलिए मिनी इंडिया, मिनी वर्ल्ड इसको माना जाता है। सबसे ज्यादा बारिश देने वाला जगह मौसिनराम में है, जो कि हमारा स्पीकर अभी मेहताब जी है, वो सामने है हमारे मेहताब जी। अरुणाचल वहां पर सबसे विश्व में ज्यादा बारिश देता है मौसिनराम, जो कि असम का एक अखंड एक इलाका था, जगह था। तो इस असम में आप सभी को मैं आज स्वागत करता हूं और मैं भाग्यशाली मानता हूं। हमारे जो लोकसभा की स्पीकर साहब है, उनकी कृपा से हमने इस कॉन्फ्रेंस को होस्ट करने का मौका मिला। और कॉमनवेल्थ पार्लियामेंट्री एसोसिएशन का जो एग्जीक्यूटिव कमेटी है, एक्सको कमेटी, इसको भी हमने होस्ट करने का मौका मिला। और इसके जोड़िए असम के सारे जो भी हमारे विधायकगण हैं, सांसद है, और उसके साथ जुड़े हैं जो भी युवतियां हैं, वही लोग हमारी पार्लियामेंट्री प्रक्रिया के बारे में, पार्लियामेंट के बारे में बहुत सारे बातें जानने को मिलेगा, सीखने को मिलेगा। और भविष्य में वही लोग इस प्रक्रिया के जरिए देश को आगे बढ़ने के लिए काम कर पाएंगे, मैं इसको विश्वास रखता हूं। मुझे आशा रखता हूं आप लोग इस जगह में आके इस मीटिंग में उपस्थित होते हुए और असम के बाहर का जो क्या है स्थान है, उसमें भरी भ्रमण करके आप लोगों को खुशी मिलेगा, मैं इसको आशा रखता हूं। कोई हम कार्यसूची में रखा गया है, इस हिसाब से हम लोग असम भ्रमण करेंगे जितना हो सके आमने सामने, और इंडिविजुअल भी सब भ्रमण कर सकेंगे। तो मैं आशा रखता हूं कि आप लोग यहाँ रहकर थोड़ा सा खुशी समय बिताने का आप लोगों का ये क्या है सक्षम होगा। तो मैं ज्यादा और बोलना नहीं चाहता हूं। मैं आशा रखता हूं इस कॉमनवेल्थ पार्लियामेंट्री एसोसिएशन की कॉन्फ्रेंस में बहुत अच्छा और सीरियस मुद्दा डिस्कशन करने के लिए आया है, जो कि मेन स्ट्रीमिंग यूथ सेंट्रिक पॉलिसीज, इसके बारे में डिस्कशन होगा, और हार्नेसिंग यूथ एनर्जी ऑफ नेशनल डेवलपमेंट एंड द कॉमन गुड। तो हमारे युवा पीढ़ियों को हम कैसे हमारे देश के लिए पार्लियामेंट्री प्रक्रिया के जोड़िए, हम उनको कैसे अच्छे काम में व्यवहारित कर सकता है, शक्तिशाली कर सकता है, इस विषय पर हमारा बहस होगा। ज्यादातर युवाओं के लिए ही इस कार्यक्रम को रखा गया है, और भविष्य के लिए हमारी जो भविष्य प्रजन्म है उनको हम जरूर एक अच्छे रास्ता प्रदर्शन कर सकेंगे इसके जोड़िए, ये मैं उम्मीद रखता हूँ। और यही आशा करते हुए आप सभी को मैं फिर से असम में, असम विधानसभा में स्वागत करके मेरा जो 2 शब्द ये कहकर मेरा वेलकम एड्रेस में यही समाप्त करता हूँ। धन्यवाद।
Thank you, sir. I would now request Honorable Chief Minister of Assam, Dr. Himanta Biswa Sarma, to kindly address the distinguished gathering.
Honorable Speaker, Lok Sabha Shri Om Birla ji, Honorable Ian Liddell Granger, Chairperson, Commonwealth Parliamentary Association's Executive Committee, Honorable Shri Haribanshi, Deputy Chairman, Rajya Sabha, Honorable Bishwajit Doimari, Speaker, Assam Legislative Assembly, Shri Debabrata Saikia, Honorable Leader of Opposition, Assam Legislative Assembly, Honorable Speakers, Honorable Deputy Speakers, along with the Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Deputy Chairperson from all across the state legislatures and Council of CPA India regions, Excellencies, distinguished members of Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Executive Committee, Honorable Ministers, Honorable Members of Parliament, Honorable Members of Assam Legislative Assembly, ladies and gentlemen. असम विधानसभा के 8 दशकों के लंबे इतिहास में आज एक ऐतिहासिक दिन है। ये सम्मानीय सदन भारत में पहली बार हो रहे राष्ट्रमंडल संसदीय संघ के मध्य वर्ष कार्यकारी समिति के बैठक की सफलतापूर्वक मेजबानी कर रहा है। साथ ही इस सदन ने आज सीपीए भारत क्षेत्र के एक ऐतिहासिक सम्मेलन का साक्षी होने का भी सौभाग्य प्राप्त किया है। मैं लोकसभा के माननीय अध्यक्ष श्री ओम बिरला जी को धन्यवाद देता हूं कि उन्होंने इस ऐतिहासिक कार्यक्रम की मेजबानी करने के लिए असम को ये अवसर दिया। ये हमारी लोकतांत्रिक प्रथाओं और प्रणालियों को आगे बढ़ाने के मुद्दे पर विचार विमर्श करने के लिए एक प्रबल मंच है। While I rise before this august gathering to speak a few words, I fondly recall what Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji has said in the event of foundation laying ceremony of the new Parliament building as part of the Central Vista project at the National Capital on 10 December 2020. He said, and I quote, "Democracy is a way of life in India. The laws made in the Parliament, the deliberation that take place are building blocks of our democracy." Honorable Prime Minister rightly pointed out the depth of democratic values in our society and how they are an integral part of our civilization ethos. The democratic tradition of our great nation has a long and serious past. Having said that, it is pertinent to mention that the principle of democracy in India was originated from the Vedas. To make democracy a guiding force in politics, the ancient Indians coined the terms Sabha and Samiti, which represented two democratic institutions of our bygone era. Both these institutions found mention in the Rig Veda and Atharva Veda. In these institutions, decisions were made after discussion with the king, ministers, and scholars at that time. This shows how politics at the time revolved around the democratic principle. People used to settle decisions together at the Sabha and Samiti with good intent. To arrive at a decision, people of different ideologies were divided into various groups and decisions were taken after mutual consultation. In ancient history of India, description of small republics is found where people participated together in the decision-making process related to the administration. The republic were defined as a democratic system in ancient India. The Atreyi Brahmins, Ashtadhyaya of Panini, inscription of Mahabharata and Ashoka pillars, the historical writings of contemporary historians, Buddhists and Jain texts, and in the Manusmriti, various historical evidence are found to that effect. In Mahabharata, we find mention of a gathering of common people which they call Jana Sadan in the Santi Parv. This Sadan was also known as Parliament, which documented the decision between Bhishma and Yudhishthira on various aspects of governance, including the benefits of Janpada, which were small kingdoms and which were nothing but a republic form of government. The Bhishma Parva of Mahabharata mention about 230 Janapadas. The Janapada that existed between 1500 BC to the 6th century BC was the highest political unit in ancient India. Though usually monarchical in nature, some of them followed a republic form of government. The Sabha Parv of Mahabharata also provide evidence of the republican form of polity where the constitutional practice of republicanism existed. The Mahajanpadas were the 16 most powerful and vast kingdoms and republic that existed in ancient India from the 6th to 4th century BC. Among the Mahajanpadas and smaller states, the Saikyas, Koliyas, Mallas followed republican government. A semblance of democratic tradition was evident in Assam in the days of Ahom rule also. Though the king was called Sargadev, was the head of the state, all decisions were taken by him only in the consultation with the ministers or Dangorias, which initially consisted of Bura Guhai, Bor Guhai and Bor Patra Guhai. The ministers even had the power to dethrone the king and place someone else in his place or rule the kingdom by themselves in the absence of any suitable person to adorn the crown. We find the same democratic spirit flourishing with the emergence of Mahapurush Srimanta Shankar Deva in the social and religious landscape of Assam, who through Ekasaran Namadharma showed the seeds of an equal and just society. The Namghar established by the great spiritual reformer exemplified the two democratic values and traditions which continued unabated in our society till today. I feel immensely proud that CPA Assam State Branch and Assam Legislative Assembly has got the remarkable opportunity to host the 8th Commonwealth Parliamentary Association India Region Conference, which is being participated by Honorable Speaker and Deputy Speaker of Legislative Assembly, Chairman and Deputy Chairman of the Legislative Council of our country. The citadel of democracy where we are sitting today with its glorious history over the years has unceasingly raised the voice of the voiceless, stood with the weakest among the weak, and debated all important issues with zeal and zest, and steered the state through thick and thin. In the parliamentary democratic setup, Assam Legislative Assembly has a rich history and long tradition. After annexation of Assam to British India, the British government made Assam a separate Chief Commissioner's provinces on February 6, 1874. However, Assam got its first Legislative Council on April 1, 1912. The British government elevated Assam to a governor's province under the provision of Government of India Act on December 23, 1919, and provide for a reform and enlarged Assam Legislative Council, which came into effect from April 1, 1921. A broad-based bicameral legislatures comprising a legislative council and a legislative assembly were provided for Assam under the Government of India Act 1935. The first elected government in Assam was sworn in on April 1, 1937, and the newly elected Assam Legislative Assembly first met at the state capital Shillong on April 7, 1937. The elected representative of Assam of this assembly included members from the present-day state of Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, and also from Sylhet, which is now part of Bangladesh. This bicameral legislature was abolished on 15 August 1947, and since then, Assam Legislative Assembly is having a unicameral status. In the years that followed, Assam was truncated to several smaller states. After the formation of Meghalaya, Shillong became the joint capital of both Assam and Meghalaya. In 1972, the government of Assam decided to shift the capital to Dispur. The first session of Assam Legislative Assembly was held in this provisional capital of Dispur on 16 March 1973, and since then, proceedings of Assam Legislative Assembly have continued here only. During the last 8 decades, Assam Legislative Assembly has witnessed many historic debates with several great personalities adorning this temple of democracy. Amongst the luminaries, the name of Bharat Ratna Lokapriya Gopinath Bordoloi, who was the first Premier of Assam, always stands apart. A great statesman, Bordoloi fought untiringly from this assembly to save Assam from merging with East Pakistan during the partition of India, while at the same time working as an activist for protecting the rights and fulfilling the aspiration of our people. Another stalwart that this assembly saw was Sri Gauri Shankar Bhattacharya, who during his 26th year long stint in this assembly remained committed to serving the voiceless, the poor, and economically deprived. This assembly was also witness to a rare confluence of 3 cultural doyens of Assam in the year 1967, where the music maestro Bharat Ratna Dr. Bhupen Hazarika, cultural icon Vishnu Prasad Rava, and Lakshadhar Chaudhary was elected to this house. Political stalwarts like Vishnuram Medhi, Bhimbor Deuri, Rupnath Brahma, Pushpalata Das, former President of India Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed, Bimala Prasad Soliha, Mahendra Mohan Chaudhary, Devakanta Borua, Sharat Chandra Sinha, Hiteshwar Soikia, Torun Gogoi, and several other legendary politicians adorn the floor of this assembly during the course of its journey spanning over 8 decades. This august house played a pioneering role in shaping the socio-cultural and academic edifice of the state while giving a major push to Assam development narrative. In the establishment of Guwahati High Court, the first University of Assam, Guwahati University, and setting up the first oil refinery in Assam are few of the many landmark steps that this august house has taken over the years. The Assam Legislative Assembly has passed several important legislation in the last decade to bring about transformative changes in the lives of the people of the state. This year, Assam Legislative Assembly is celebrating the 85th year of its foundation. Considering the present-day needs and to cope up with changing time, the Assam government took the landmark initiative to construct a state-of-the-art assembly building with all modern facilities of e-Vidhan Sabha, modern offices, complexes for speaker, ministers, meeting room for the ruling party, opposition party, state-of-the-art central hall, modern office complex along with the state-of-the-art conference room for all committees with modern audio-video system, video conferencing facilities, etc. will adorn the new assembly building. Its construction is expected to be completed by 31st December 2022. मैं बहुत ही विनम्रता पूर्वक लोकसभा का माननीय अध्यक्ष श्री ओम बिरला जी को अभी से ही आमंत्रित करता हूं कि आप हमारा बीच दोबारा आइए और हमारा नया विधानसभा को उद्घाटन कीजिए। आज के इस ऐतिहासिक अवसर पर मुझे ये कहते हुए बहुत गर्व महसूस हो रहा है कि पिछले 2 दशकों के अधिक समय से इस सम्मानीय संस्थान का साथ मैं हिस्सा हूं। अपने लंबी सक्रिय राजनीतिक जीवन में मैं समझता हूं कि आधुनिक लोकतंत्र में लोग सुने हुए प्रतिनिधियों से बहुत ही उम्मीद रखते हैं। लोग चाहते हैं कि हम उनकी आवाज और अभिभावक बने। लोगों ने उनके जीवन की मूलभूत आवश्यकताओं के साथ उनके सपनों की पूरा करने के लिए हमें जिम्मेदारी दी है। Through active participation in the debates in the August House, we not just can bring into the focus different aspects of the bills under discussion, but at the same time, we can be the champion of upholding the democratic rights by giving unprecedented momentum to their welfare and development. In this context, CPA provides a timely platform for in-depth deliberation on a wide range of issues of constitutional, legislative, economic, social and cultural aspects, which are of the paramount importance for furthering our rich democratic tradition. By working together and learning from each other, we can constantly improve our democratic practice and system, and we all need to work towards that goal, only to meet the aspiration of our citizens and celebrate democratic spirit of our great country. भूतपूर्व प्रधानमंत्री भारत रत्न अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी ने कहा था, भारतीय लोकतंत्र की सबसे बड़ी ताकत है, ये ताकत यही है कि हमने हमेशा राष्ट्र को राजनीति से ऊपर रखा है। वाजपेयी जी का शब्द हमारे मजबूत लोकतंत्र का सच्चा प्रतिबिंब है। मुझे विश्वास है कि सीपीए का इस क्षेत्रीय सम्मेलन में विचार और विमर्श के माध्यम से हमें अधिक प्रोत्साहन मिलेगा। Former Prime Minister Bharat Ratna Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji has once said, Indian democracy's greatest strength is that we have always put nation above politics. Vajpayee ji's words are a true reflection of our cherished democratic ethos, which I believe will find greater impetus through the deliberation at this regional conference of CPA. With these few words, and thanking you all for taking out time to visit Assam to take part of this remarkable event, I bring an end to my words. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you for your enlightening words, sir. I would now request Honorable Ian Little Granger, Chairperson of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Executive Committee, to kindly address the August gathering.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Assam, First Minister, Chairman, Leader of the Opposition, Chairman, Vice Chairman, speakers from across India. I am absolutely delighted to be here to be able to take part in the India region conference over the next 2 days. It is an enormous honour for myself and the Secretary General, Stephen Twigg, to be here joining you today. I was very struck by your words, First Minister, when you gave us an insight to democracy, and the democracy is the biggest democracy in the world, India, and the history of democracy here. And you said something very profound, that we must learn together. That is in many ways the mission statement of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. We've been going, believe it or not, as a parliamentary association since 1911, which is quite good for international bodies. And we're still young and fresh, I like to think, and maybe not young, but fresh. But the purpose of the Commonwealth, and I wish to read it again as I did a couple of days ago, because I think it is important, is to connect, develop, promote and support parliamentarians and their staff to identify benchmarks of good governance and the implementation of the enduring values of the Commonwealth. And in many ways that sums up the next 2 days that you have here. Mr. Speaker, I'm delighted to see that the two themes over the next 2 days are mainstreaming youth-centric politics and harnessing youth energy for national development and common good. There cannot be a more profound subject than our future, our youth, and also the way we harness our youth. The Commonwealth is made up of 54 countries, 180 different parliaments and legislatures, 17,500 parliamentarians. We only can survive by working as a family of the nations. And that is profoundly important here. You have more speakers than anyone else. You have, dare I say, a new parliament being built here, legislature being built here, one in Delhi. It's an incredibly dynamic democracy that you have in India. And the Commonwealth is proud to be. I've just been talking to the Speaker about coming to the United Kingdom to learn from each other about what we do in best practice. Our mistakes, we all make them. Our strengths and our weaknesses, we try and learn from each other on both of those. And what has so impressed me the last 2 days in Assam, actually slightly more, 4 days, is not only the friendliness, but also the dynamicism of what is going on here in Assam, through industry, through commerce generally, through our ability to change. I've been across remarkable bridges, I've been to see heritage centres, tea auctions, and it's been a remarkable, dare I say, run through what happens here. I will say this is the first time I've been to India, and I'm absolutely bowled over. It's fantastic what you do. I will tell you that the most popular dish in England is actually an Indian dish, chicken tikka masala, which I believe you don't have. So it shows that the tie-up between our two nations doesn't just go between our speakers meeting, it goes through our culinary delights as well. And everybody in Britain likes Indian food, I can assure you. But that brings me to the sort of core of what we're here for. Over the next 2 days, I hope we can strengthen our ties with you as the CPA International. We are very determined, and our Secretary General is the same, to make sure that we further the academy, further our benchmarking, further our learning, further our, dare I say it, women's caucus, our disability caucus, and many other organisations we encompass. Our human rights, which we all watch, and also to try and look after each other. And I think if the next 2 days you achieve everything that you are going to set out to do, which I know you will, I think it's a job well done, Mr. Speaker, and I am absolutely delighted. And in conclusion, can I last on a personal note? So your hospitality, Mr. Speaker, First Minister, everybody, has been absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much. I will say I was very grateful last night in dinner when the First Minister made sure I didn't eat anything too hot. When you've got all the cameras pointing at you, it's very embarrassing drinking a lot of water as you try and cool down. The First Minister saved me. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you come to London, please come and see us. Mr. Speaker, we welcome you, First Minister, who I know comes over regularly, and all of you to come and see us so that we may return your hospitality from wherever you are in this incredible nation of India. And I look forward again coming to India and hopefully a British delegation to come to Delhi to meet with you, sir, and also hopefully, if it's not Assam, somewhere across this wonderful nation to meet with the Speaker and the legislator of wherever it may be. And finally, a personal note to you, sir, thank you. You've been a wondrous host, both speakers, and we look forward to seeing you all very, very soon. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your insightful thoughts with us.
Speech is very well done. Your speech well done.
It was beautiful.
May I kindly request Shri Om Birla, Honourable Speaker, Lok Sabha and Chairperson, Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, India Region, to kindly deliver his inaugural address.
राष्ट्रमंडल संसदीय संघ भारत क्षेत्र की कार्य समिति में आप सबका अभिनंदन है, स्वागत है। सीपीए एग्जीक्यूटिव कमेटी के चेयरमैन एक्सलेंसी इयान लिडेन गेंगर जी, विभिन्न देशों से आए सीपीए एग्जीक्यूटिव कमेटी के एक्सलेंसी मेंबरगण, सेक्रेटरी जनरल, असम विधानसभा के अध्यक्ष श्री विश्वजीत देमारी जी, इस राज्य के लोकप्रिय मुख्यमंत्री हेमंत बिस्वा शर्मा जी, हमारे अपर हाउस राज्यसभा के उपसभापति श्री हरवंश जी, असम विधानसभा के नेता प्रतिपक्ष माननीय देवव्रत सेकिया जी, विभिन्न राज्यों से आए हमारे सभी पीठासीन अधिकारीगण, उपसभापतिगण, असम सरकार के माननीय मंत्रीगण, लोकसभा राज्यसभा के माननीय सदस्यगण, विधायकगण, सभी अधिकारीगण, जैसा कि हमारे स्पीकर साहब ने, मुख्यमंत्री जी ने असम और पूर्वोत्तर राज्यों के बारे में बताया, यहाँ की एक समृद्ध संस्कृति, एक समृद्ध इतिहास, मनोरम घटाएं, ब्रह्मपुत्र नदी, माता कामाख्या का मंदिर, ऐसी विशेष बहु रंगी यहाँ की संस्कृति है और आप जब अलग अलग प्रदेशों में यहाँ जाएंगे तो आप देखेंगे किस तरीके से यहाँ की एक समृद्ध संस्कृति और सांस्कृतिक धरोहर रही है। मैं असम के पूर्वोत्तर द्वार गुवाहाटी में आप सबका अभिनंदन करता हूं, स्वागत करता हूं। इस प्रदेश के सभी वर्तमान और भूतपूर्व नेताओं, यहाँ के मुख्य मंत्रियों, पीठासीन अधिकारियों, जिन्होंने संसदीय लोकतंत्र के सशक्तिकरण में प्रमुख भूमिका निभाई, जिनके कारण हमारी लोकतांत्रिक संस्थाएं सशक्त हुई, लोकतंत्र सशक्त हुआ, उन सबको स्मरण करते हुए उनको मैं साधुवाद देता हूं। सीपीए एक विश्वव्यापी पूरे देश का संगठन है, जो पूरे विश्व के अंदर लोकतंत्र को सशक्त करने के लिए, मजबूत करने के लिए, लोकतांत्रिक प्रणाली को नागरिकों के सामाजिक आर्थिक परिवर्तन लाने में एक चर्चा, संवाद, निर्णय करने का एक मंच है, जिसके माध्यम से हम विश्व के अलग अलग देशों के अंदर सम्मेलन करते हैं, गोष्ठियां करते हैं, चर्चा करते हैं, संवाद करते हैं। और सीपीए भारत रीजन भी विशेष रूप से सीपीए की गतिविधियों को आगे बढ़ाने का काम करता है। सीपीए का भारत रीजन, जिसमें समय समय पर कई कार्यक्रमों के माध्यम से हम संसदीय लोकतंत्र और लोकतांत्रिक संस्थाओं को कैसे प्रभावी बनाएं, कैसे जवाबदेही बनाएं, ताकि ये संस्थाएं जनता का अधिकतम कल्याण कर सके। भारत का लोकतंत्र बहुत प्राचीनतम लोकतंत्र है, एक समृद्ध लोकतंत्र है। दुनिया के अंदर भारत का लोकतंत्र एक सबसे कार्यशील, जीवंत लोकतंत्र है। दुनिया के अंदर अधिकतम देशों के अंदर लोकतांत्रिक संसदीय प्रणाली से शासन को चलाया जाता है। दुनिया में सबसे ज्यादा मतदान करने वाला और सबसे ज्यादा देश में गांव से लेकर केंद्रीय स्तर तक हमारा लोकतंत्र प्रभावी है, जीवंत है, जवाबदेही है और जनता से सीधा संवाद कर कर प्रभावी परिणाम देता है। इसीलिए आपने सही कहा, एग्जीक्यूटिव चेयरमैन ने, कि भारत के लोकतंत्र को एक मार्गदर्शक भूमिका के रूप में दुनिया देखती है। आज हम 2 दिन इंडिया रीजन के सभी पदाधिकारीगण उन विषयों पर चर्चा करेंगे, संवाद करेंगे और किस तरीके से उस चर्चा संवाद का परिणाम निकले ताकि लोकतांत्रिक संस्थाएं और मजबूत हो सके। इस कॉन्फ्रेंस के 2 विषय हमने रखे हैं कि किस तरीके से हमारी विधानमंडलों के माध्यम से समाज के आकांक्षी वर्गों के बेहतर भविष्य में विधायकों की भूमिका हो, इन संस्थाओं की भूमिका हो और उसमें किस तरीके से लोकतंत्र में सक्रिय भागीदारी निभाते हुए हमारे युवा इन लोकतांत्रिक संस्थाओं को, इन आकांक्षी वर्गों को किस तरीके से ज़्यादा सहयोग कर सकते हैं और किस तरीके से लोकतांत्रिक संस्थाओं में नौजवानों की अधिकतम सक्रिय भागीदारी बढ़े, इस विषय पर हम 2 दिन चर्चा करेंगे। साथियों, विधायिका का मूल दायित्व समाज के उन आकांक्षी वर्गों को उनके जीवन को बेहतर बनाने के लिए, उनके जीवन में सामाजिक आर्थिक परिवर्तन लाने के लिए हमारी विधायिका विशेष भूमिका निभाती है। और इसीलिए हमारे विधायकगण, हमारे सांसदगण विधानसभाओं में, लोकसभाओं के अंदर, अन्य विधानमंडलों के अंदर समय समय पर इन आकांक्षी वर्गों के लिए अपनी आवाज बनते हैं। उनकी अपेक्षाएं, उनकी आकांक्षा, उनको सपनों को इन विधानमंडलों के अंदर रखते हैं। आज महात्मा ज्योतिराव फूले जयंती है। महात्मा ज्योतिराव फूले जी ने इस देश में उस समय महिला शिक्षा, दलित, वंचित, गरीब लोगों को शिक्षा मिले, महिलाओं को समानता का अधिकार मिले, उसके लिए एक न्यायिक लड़ाई लड़ी थी। 14 नवंबर को बाबा अंबेडकर जी की जयंती भी है और हम कह सकते हैं कि ज्योतिराव फूले जी, बाबा राव भीमगढ़ अम्बेडकर जी ने इस देश के अंदर शोषित, वंचित लोगों की एक सामाजिक लड़ाई लड़ी थी। बाबा साहब भीमराव अंबेडकर जी ने निश्चित रूप से इस देश के संविधान निर्माण में महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभाई और समाज के वंचित, गरीब, शोषित व्यक्तियों को न्याय मिले, आकांक्षी वर्ग को न्याय मिले, इसके लिए संविधान के अंदर मूल रूप से हमें एक अधिकार दिया है कि हम किस तरीके से उन वंचित गरीब व्यक्तियों को समानता का अधिकार दे सकें। इसलिए बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर ने जब संविधान बनाया था तो ये भारत का संविधान आज दुनिया का, हम कह सकते हैं कि सबसे बड़ा संविधान हमारा है, गतिशील संविधान है और हम सब के लिए मार्गदर्शक की भूमिका आज भी निभा रहा है। और इसीलिए इसी संविधान के कारण भारत का लोकतंत्र सशक्त और मजबूत है, क्योंकि संविधान में जनता के लिए, जनता के द्वारा जनता का शासन मूल में रखा गया और संविधान निर्माता करने वाले हमारे मनुष्यों ने विशेष रूप से इस बात का ध्यान रखा कि हमारे हर शासन पद्धति के अंदर जनता मूल में रहनी चाहिए। और इसीलिए आपने देखा होगा कि 17 आम चुनाव और 300 से ज्यादा विधानसभा चुनाव के अंदर जिस तरीके से जनता की सक्रिय भागीदारी बढ़ रही है, हर बार मतदान का प्रतिशत बढ़ रहा है, युवा महिलाओं की भागीदारी बढ़ रही है, इससे जनता का विश्वास और भरोसा लोकतंत्र के प्रति और बढ़ा है। अब हमारी और जिम्मेदारी हो जाती है कि हम इन लोकतांत्रिक संस्थाओं के माध्यम से किस तरीके से उन वर्गों के लिए बेहतरी के लिए काम कर सकते हैं। भारत के प्रधानमंत्री जी ने भी बाबा साहब के इन्हीं सपनों को पूरा करने के लिए आकांक्षी जिलों की योजना बनाई थी, ताकि जो हमारे देश के जो जिले पिछड़े रह गए हैं, जो मूलभूत सुविधाओं से उन अग्रणी जिलों से पीछे रह गए हैं, उन आकांक्षी जिलों के अंदर और आकांक्षी जिलों में रहने वाले आकांक्षी वर्गों के लिए एक व्यापक योजना बने। इसलिए शिक्षा हो, स्वास्थ्य हो, वहां का बुनियादी ढांचा हो, कौशल विकास हो, ऐसे कई तरीके की व्यापक योजना बनाई है जिसके माध्यम से उन आकांक्षी जिलों को और आकांक्षी जिलों में रहने वाले आकांक्षी वर्गों को हम समानता की ओर ला सके। इसके लिए हमें विशेष रूप से अपने अपने विधानमंडलों के अंदर, अपने प्रदेश के अंदर, चाहे वो आकांक्षी पंचायतें हों, चाहे आकांक्षी नगर पालिका हो, चाहे आकांक्षी जिले हों, तहसील हो, उसके लिए भी व्यापक रूप से चर्चा और संवाद करना चाहिए, ताकि हम प्रदेश के अंदर उन जिलों को, उन पंचायतों को, उन पंचायत समितियों को, नगर पालिकाओं को एक समकक्ष लाने का काम करें। इसके लिए हमें व्यापक चर्चा और संवाद करने की आवश्यकता है। साथियों, ये वर्ष आजादी का अमृत वर्ष है और हम आजादी के 75 वर्ष प्राप्त करने जा रहे हैं। इस आजादी के आंदोलन में हमारे नौजवानों का बहुत बड़ा योगदान रहा था। हमारे उस समय के नौजवानों ने, जिनकी उम्र 18 साल थी, 22 साल थी, इस आजादी के लिए कुर्बानी दी, बलिदान दिया और अपने जीवन को सर्वोच्च राष्ट्र के नाम न्योछावर किया। इसलिए हमारे युवाओं की उस समय भी देश की आजादी के आंदोलन में भी सबसे बड़ी भूमिका थी और इस 7 दशकों के अंदर आज भी जब भी इस देश के अंदर व्यापक बदलाव आए, उस बदलाव के अंदर हमारे नौजवानों की विशेष भूमिका रही है। वो हमेशा बदलाव के मुख्य वाहक के रूप में रहे। इसलिए आज हमारी जिम्मेदारी बढ़ जाती है कि हम इस 75 साल की लोकतांत्रिक यात्रा के अंदर उन जो नौजवानों को किस तरीके से लोकतंत्र के अंदर सक्रिय भागीदारी निकालने के लिए प्रेरित करें। और इसके लिए अब समय आ गया है। हमारे नौजवानों की एक अद्भुत कार्य क्षमता है, आत्मविश्वास है, काम करने का विजन है, इनोवेशन है। सूचना प्रौद्योगिकी के अंदर हमारा नौजवान बहुत तेजी से देश और दुनिया के अंदर काम कर रहा है। इसलिए इस समय परिस्थिति के अनुसार एक आवश्यक है कि हमारे नौजवानों का हम हमारी लोकतांत्रिक प्रणाली में किस तरीके से ज्यादा प्रभावी रूप से उनको लाकर हमारी समस्याओं और चुनौतियों को समाधान करें। ये बात सही है कि आजादी के इस 75 साल के अंदर हमारी जितनी कठिनाइयां हों, चुनौतियां हों, उनका सॉल्यूशन करने का काम, समाधान करने का काम, सरल रूप से जनता को पारदर्शिता शासन में लाने में काम किया है। उसमें देश के नौजवानों की बहुत बड़ी भूमिका रही है और इसलिए मेरा विशेष रूप से आप लोगों से आग्रह है कि हम हमारे विधानमंडलों के अंदर और विधानमंडलों के माध्यम से किस तरीके से देश के नौजवानों की सक्रिय भागीदारी इस लोकतंत्र के अंदर निभाने के लिए काम करें। और मुझे आशा है कि हम सब लोग अगर सामूहिकता के साथ इस काम को करेंगे, सब मिलकर काम करेंगे, तो ये मैं कह सकता हूं, जितनी ज्यादा लोकतंत्र में युवा महिलाओं की भागीदारी बढ़ेगी, उतना लोकतंत्र सशक्त होगा, शासन जवाबदेही बनेगा, प्रशासन पारदर्शी बनेगा। और इसीलिए इस युवाओं की अद्भुत क्षमताओं को हमें उपयोग में लेने की आवश्यकता है। इसलिए विधानमंडलों के माध्यम से कल एग्जीक्यूटिव में भी व्यापक रूप से चर्चा हुई थी। हमारे कई मान्य सदस्यों का आग्रह था कि हम अपने अपने विधानमंडलों के माध्यम से अपने अपने प्रदेश के अंदर एक व्यापक योजना इस अमृत महोत्सव के माध्यम से बनाएं, जिसमें राजनीतिक लोकतंत्र में युवाओं की सक्रिय भागीदारी हो। नो योर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, संविधान को हमारा नौजवान जाने। और इस समय जब आजादी के 75 साल हो गए, तो जिस तरीके से आजादी दिलाने में हमारे नौजवानों का सबसे बड़ा योगदान था, इस 7 दशक के बाद इस अमृत महोत्सव के माध्यम से हमारे नौजवानों का इस देश और राष्ट्र के प्रति सबसे ज्यादा कर्तव्य हो और राष्ट्र समर्पण सेवा से काम करे, इस दिशा की ओर हमें एक व्यापक कार्य योजना बनाने की आवश्यकता है। मुझे आशा है 2 दिन हमारे इस एग्जीक्यूटिव कमेटी के अंदर इन सारे विषयों पर व्यापक चर्चा होगी, संवाद होंगे। सभी माननीय पीठासीन अधिकारी अपने अपने विचार व्यक्त करेंगे और विचारों के माध्यम से जो मंथन निकलेगा, जो अमृत निकलेगा, उस अमृत से हम देश और प्रदेश की जनता का कल्याण कर पाएंगे। मुझे आशा है ये 2 दिन का अमृत आने वाले समय के अंदर आजादी के अमृत महोत्सव के रूप में, अमृत के रूप में निकले। हम जनता की अपेक्षाएं, आकांक्षाओं, उनके सपनों को पूरा कर सकें और जिन अपेक्षा आकांक्षाओं से हमें लोगों को चुनकर भेजा है, उनकी अपेक्षा आकांक्षा इन्हीं विधानमंडलों के माध्यम से हम पूरी कर पाएंगे। मैं पुनः आप सभी का यहाँ पधारने के लिए बहुत बहुत साधुवाद देता हूँ, बधाई देता हूँ। जय हिंद।
Thank you for your thought-provoking speech, sir. I would now request Honorable Shri Debabrata Khoikia, Leader of Opposition, Assam Legislative Assembly, to propose the vote of thanks.
Honorable Speaker, Lok Sabha, Shri Om Birla ji, Honorable Ian Little Grainer, Chairperson, Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Executive Committee, Honorable Chief Minister of Assam, Dr. Himanta Biswa Sarma Dangoria, Honorable Deputy Chairman, Rajya Sabha, Shri Harivansh ji, Honorable Speaker of Assam Legislative Assembly, Shri Biswajit Doimari Dangoria, Honorable Delegates of CPA, India Region, Honorable Ministers, MPs, MLAs of Assam and CPA International Executive Committee and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is our immense pleasure to host the 8th CPA India Region Conference here in Assam. As you all know, Assam is famous for its one-horned rhinoceros and Assam tea is known all over the world. Also, Assam is known for the rich heritage for fusion of different tribes and communities having varied cultures, traditions and customs. Assam is known for its diversity where different communities live together. It is a reflection of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association where people of different regions with different cultures come together in one platform. An interesting element is further augmented as this 8th CPA India Region Conference has coincided with the 85th anniversary of Assam Legislative Assembly on 7th April, together with the CPA Mid-Year Executive Committee. Democracy is needed to protect the best interest of the people without any discrimination, racial, political or religious difference. So the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association has evolved over the time and now it has been able to work with the modern time, and so we all are proud to be members of the association. So many countries have left at one time, but they have come back again as the ideals for which the Commonwealth Charter has given are the ideals which every person who wants to be free, who wants to be living with dignity, wants to be in. As such, it is really we are very honored, India, to be a part of the CPA movement. So, democracy also means rule by the people. Sometimes it is also rule of the majority. So, this year's topic, harnessing the youth and also participation of the youth in the various aspects are very much essential as we are now, as Honorable Speaker Sir has said, in the 75th year of our democracy. Our freedom fighters were young when they fought for our democracy, and we have crossed 75. Now we again want our young people to be more involved in democratic process. So it is important that we make these discussions in the coming 2 days fruitful. My heartiest thanks to Honorable Speaker Sir Assam Legislative Assembly, Shri Biswajit Deomariji, for his welcome address. I also thank our Chief Minister, Dr. Himanta Biswa Sharma, for his wonderful speech and his support, which has made this remarkable event possible. I again offer my vote of thanks to all of our present invitees, dignitaries, and officials for coming here and making this event a success. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All honorable delegates may now proceed for lunch at Annex 1. Accompanying officials are requested to kindly partake lunch in
the live telecast of the inaugural function of the India Region Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association coming to an end. We now take you back to the studios of DD Assam. Thank you.